a warning?
There ain't nothing to worry about.
I'm worried that you work in an office, have children, celebrate wedding anniversaries. The world of heterosexual is a sick and boring life.
When I was a kid, I could see things. Things humans aren't supposed to see. What if I told you that God and the devil made a wager? Kind of a standing bet for the souls of all mankind.
I tell you to stay on your meds.
Demons stay in hell. Angels in heaven.
And a half-breed breaks the rules. I deport their sorry ass straight back to hell. This isn't the usual game. I can feel it. Something's coming.
I need to see what you've seen.
There's no turning back.
The road to salvation begins tonight.
Constantine. Into the light I command thee.
This world is mine.
Hi. My name's John.
I guess God has a plan for all of us.
So I've heard.
Welcome back to the show, listeners.
Welcome back.
I'm excited for this music.
I mean, truly, send me an angel.
I love this.
Send me an angel in the form
The song
of
is used in several
Tilda
movies.
Swinton.
Not this movie.
I always think of the Wizard when I think of this song.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Whenever it comes on at work, I always think of the Wizard.
We're going to talk about one Miss Tilda Swinton in this
Yes.
movie. I hope you're ready. Listeners, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay. We have a very special guest on the podcast.
Yes.
We have somebody who I feel like is mentioned a lot on the show.
I would say so.
Kind of an off-screen character of the podcast.
Sure.
We have Pete's sister, Amy.
Amy, welcome to the show.
You do get mentioned on the show a lot.
Yes, and that is part of why I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here to, I would say I'm here to set the record straight. This is a gay podcast. We're not supposed to do anything straight on this podcast.
No. You're here to debunk and demystify all of my...
But sadly, actually, Pete is correct. Unfortunately for me, yes, I did have a crush on the animated Robin Hood character. Yes,
Didn't
I
we all?
did have a crush on Robert Downey Jr. in Weird Science of all movies.
Hey, he's cute in Weird
You know,
Science.
I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Till you mentioned it. And I remember listening going, I had it, what? I don't
I
remember
feel like
that.
I like the other one from Weird Science. I like his friend more.
You like the one with the weird,
friend
like,
from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes,
too.
yes. But, I was sitting there going, I don't remember that. And then all of a sudden, I remembered the scene. It's the scene where he and the friend are pantsing Wyatt and Gary. And it's this shot looking up at Robert Downey Jr., RTJ. And his hair is like super high and super crazy because it was the 80s and like pompadours were coming back or whatever.
Weirdly, yeah.
That Buster Poindexter era. And I just remember like, going, oh my God, he's so cute.
Yeah,
and I'm shocked that you picked up on that at the time because I thought it was a huge secret that I had a crush on him. But maybe pausing the movie every time that scene came up
I don't know what it was.
giving
I feel
me
like
away.
Maybe you mentioned it or wrote it on a peachy folder or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yes, and a crush on Christian Slater is the whole long.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The usual suspects.
The usual suspects.
The late 80s, early 90s heartthrobs.
You know,
and starring somebody from this movie.
Keanu Reeves.
Well, and Pete, for when we were discussing which movie to discuss on this podcast, I had originally suggested Better Off Dead. Mm-hmm. But then I really thought about it, and I was like, okay, I am positive that movie did not age well. And
sure, yeah. There's a lot.
I didn't grow up on Better Off Dead. I like the scenes of Better Off Dead. I don't really enjoy watching it as much as Pete does.
Well, I think talking about a movie where they make so many jokes about the character attempting to unalive himself throughout the film may be a little insensitive,
in today's climate. And then I was like, what am I really going to say other than I had a ridiculous crush on John Cusack at the time, and that's probably 99% of why I like that movie.
We just did a Say Anything rewatch.
Oh, really?
Overrated.
Really?
And I used to love that movie when I was 17, too.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, I cannot believe... See, this is why so many women my age now are just like, look at the crap we were fed.
Right.
Because, that guy was a fucking loser.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's true. No, you're right. Yeah, everybody's like, oh, I want Lloyd Dobler. Lloyd, like, why?
Lloyd kind of sucks. I think she kind of sucks in that movie,
probably, too.
So...
But, girl was, straight A student, valedictorian, whatever, and then, this guy comes in.
No ambition.
And then a scene that always stuck with me, though, was how he had the friend, was it Lily Taylor? It
was Lily Taylor, yeah.
And she would sing those songs about Joe.
Yes, Joe, yeah.
Joe likes girls.
It's gonna be me!
It's gonna be And then you find out later that, Joe was just stringing her along because he wanted to bank on her being successful.
Right.
And there are so many guys who are like that.
Sure.
And that always stayed with me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That was the main lesson of Say Anything.
Sure.
Well, we are not here to talk about weird science or Say Anything.
Or Better Off Dead.
Or Better Off Dead.
Why am I here?
We're here to talk about Keanu Reeves again.
Yes.
Favorite of the podcast.
Yes.
So you mentioned about doing a Constantine episode.
Yes.
And I feel like this character kind of has a big bisexual following behind him. So kind of a fun little conversation to have on the pod. Yeah. And this movie just turned 20.
And also, like we were saying, Tilda Swinton's depiction.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Tilda Swinton.
The angel Gabriel in this movie. I cannot believe this movie is 20 years old.
20 years old this past month.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
This was released the week after Valentine's Day of 2005.
Okay.
So
I was going to say it's not true, but I caught myself, but I'll say it anyway. I was about to say Keanu Reeves was younger than all three of us when he filmed this movie.
I think so I think that we did
Probably.
the math last night when we were watching it, and I think that he's my age when he was filming
He's about 39
He was about
when the movie
39
was produced.
as they were filming it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, this is 20... Yes, this was 20 years ago, but Keanu's been a big star forever.
I mean, I first saw him in Bill and Ted
Yeah.
when I was 13 years
87,
old.
88?
87, 88.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember I had a subscription to Sassy magazine.
Oh, yes.
And
Loved it.
one issue was a poster, and it was a double-sided poster. One side was Keanu, one side was Alex Winter.
Oh.
I feel like
sorry,
Alex.
I feel Alex was never displayed in my bedroom.
It really informs what type of girl you were, or
what side
gay
of the poster
kid, which
on,
side of the poster you're Bill and Ted.
Yes.
I feel like mine would be
Scott's
the Alex side.
Scott's and Alex's
because I
team.
think Alex Winter is so adorable.
He
in that
likes
movie.
he likes those sleepy eyes.
Yeah.
Those Alex Winter sleepy eyes.
Yeah.
But that was so early. 87 I feel like was the original Bill and Ted, and Parenthood was right around the same time.
Parenthood is 89.
Keanu was the entire reason I watched My Own Private Idaho.
Oh yeah.
And subjected you to that.
I mean, hey,
I love My Own
Gus
Private
Van Sant, River Phoenix. That movie is iconic.
Yes.
So good. But he very kind of interesting as just a movie star in general.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fascinating.
I love the fact that Asian people are very much oh yeah, he's fully Chinese. Love it. And I think that because I feel like most Americans are just what? He's just a white guy. But no,
I always thought he was Hawaiian or something.
I always thought he Is it sort of like a Chinese Hawaiian type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, the name is definitely Hawaiian, but the thing is, he has Asian heritage.
He does have an Asian look to him. I always thought that, but
Right.
maybe that's because we grew up in the San Gabriel Valley.
Yeah, true. But I
We
mean,
interacted with Asians.
He's Canadian. He was actually born in Lebanon, born in Beirut. Very interesting. But let's see.
Citizen of the world.
Yeah, citizen of the world. Yeah, absolutely. His mother's English. His father is a native Hawaiian and has Chinese,
There you go.
English, and Portuguese descent.
Yeah.
So, but his father was native Hawaiian, so that's where that comes
You
from.
look
but
exotic.
actually
Was your dad a GI?
a GI? No, I'm ethnic. But yeah, so he has so he has Hawaiian and Chinese descent. But I feel like that's so cool that the Asian community is fully claims him as like, yes, he's an Asian American leading man and has been since the 80s, you know. But I think for so long that part of his identity was just kind of like maybe not really talked about or brought to the forefront. But I mean, it's so interesting that he played these like teen characters, you know. In Parenthood, his character was a little bit of a airhead, you know. He's got this Ted thing going on. And then Speed comes along.
Yeah.
And he's an action hero. Right?
He takes a buzz to that head.
Oh, yeah.
Shaves off all of that hair.
Yeah.
And then was Point Break right after that too?
I think Point Break was before Speed. Oh, Point Break was before Speed, but the whole like action star, like it's kind of a trajectory for like a young heartthrob guy to go in. But I mean, we've been Team Keanu for the long haul.
We love Keanu on the podcast.
I will never forget being 16, 17, and my friend from high school, Ray, shaving my head in his sink in his kitchen or in his bathroom with the clippers. And then I shaved his head right afterwards, and he goes, "We look like Keanu." We look like Keanu. And I was like, we do not.
We do not.
Maybe you kind of do, but I absolutely don't.
Right.
But he's so like, we look like Keanu. And I was like, I'm going for a little bit more of a Beastie Boys thing here. But, you know, I'll take either one. So that had to have been post-Speed because that was when he shaved his head. So 94. But yeah.
And Keanu, you know, he's had some other interesting choices as well. I mean, I mean, Bram Stoker's Dracula, of course, but also he was in Kenneth Branagh's Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh, that's
Much to Do About Nothing.
Much to Do About Nothing.
Much to Do About Nothing, yeah.
Much to Do About Nothing.
Dangerous Liaisons, too.
Dangerous Liaisons. So.
Yeah. So he was kind of playing the field as far as different types of roles.
Well, especially where the movie that we were talking about tonight, it's directly after The Matrix. So it's directly after the Matrix movie. So let's get the formal introductions out of the way.
Okay.
We watched
Let's
Constantine.
talk about the movie I came here to talk about.
Yeah.
Directed by Francis Lawrence. Written by Kevin Brobin and Frank Capello. Based on John Constantine, Hellblazer, a comic book published by DC Comics since January of 1988. This movie is just over 20 years old, released February 18th, 2005.
Is Hellblazer a Alan Moore joint?
I don't know.
I'm going to look up if Constantine is an Alan Moore.
It seems very Alan Moore.
very Alan Moore. I know that Garth Ennis, who wrote a lot of Hellblazer, kind of worked on those things. But Alan Moore was a creator of Watchmen, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He's just
I'm on the Wikipedia page. And it looks like he started out John Constantine appearances in comic book series Swamp Things, where he had
Alan
been
Moore did
introduced
Swamp
by
Thing,
writer Alan Moore, the series creator.
Yeah, Alan Moore did the big reboot kind of Swamp Thing, and I want to say the 90s.
I mean, we're not huge comic book
listeners.
readers on the show. I know that there's a big difference between DC Comics and Vertigo Comics.
Right. Well, Vertigo is an offshoot of DC, and they're like
they have their own properties.
They're like the hip, cool ones.
Yeah.
So Constantine, ultimately, at the end of the day, is a DC character, and that's how the character was used in like the whole Arrow Flash universe.
Did they do? Oh, so they did Constantine on Arrow and Flash.
Well, there was Constantine, the character, had his own show.
I remember
for a
this.
couple of seasons.
Yes.
And then after that ended, they spun off the character, and he was in the Arrowverse shows. And then he did Legends of Tomorrow, I think is the other one. And which was them really trying to capitalize on Avengers around that time. But listeners, listen, we're not going to give you the history lesson on.
If any listeners are very familiar with Constantine, send us a DM.
Yeah, I know nothing about Constantine other than what I found out on the Google and the Wikipedia.
Yeah, we're talking about the movie.
And I had not read any of that before I watched this movie. I was not compelled to read any of it after I watched this movie.
And what I understand is that readers of the comic book always say this is pretty much its own thing.
And that's the way I take this movie as pretty much its
it
own
lives in its own
thing.
canon.
It's sort of like there are other Amy Lozanos in this world. This is another John Constantine who just happens to have a love interest named Rachel, who just happens to have a friend named Chaz.
Did either
which is, I know is hypocritical because of how mad I was when Tom Cruise was cast as Lestat.
Oh, sure.
You remember that hissy fit
yes,
I had?
that was
but
I
think that all worked out, though.
That all worked out. I will admit that he was not my original fan cast, but he did do a great job.
Well, much like along those lines, much like with the Vampire Lestat and kind of the original vision of the John Constantine character in the comic books. Character is British.
Yes. Liverpudlian. Can you imagine Keanu with a Liverpudlian accent? I would pay real money to
And that's like a Beatles accent, right? That's
yes.
Rachel
When I was in Liverpool in October, when I went to the UK, I was falling in love with every man who talked to me in Liverpool because it's just such a melodic accent.
Yes,
and then
everybody very
and then they call you Love.
They're in the Beatles.
Love,
yes, they all sound like they're in the Beatles, and they're like,
Love.
Would you like vanilla in that latte? Love. I will take everything in this latte. Just keep calling me Love.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm also a sucker for a good, just urban British accent.
Yes.
You like a good Cockney.
I like a good Cockney
London chav.
accent.
You like a good chav. But okay, so much like Anne Rice had vision of Lestat being kind of modeled after a late 70s, early 80s Rutger Hauer.
Yes.
Right? So think
who is still not my fan
Blade
cast,
Runner.
but,
No, not at all.
I know that was
feel
hers,
like for me, I'm like, that's crazy. But think Rutger Hauer and Blade Runner era. That's what she's thinking of, right? So Alan Moore has this is kind of known that the original look of John Constantine was Sting.
Oh, and I agree. I mean, blonde.
Yeah.
I just looked at
Sting, sort of my Lestat fan cast.
Yes,
as well.
yes. Sting
Julian
was a good-
Sands was my another fan cast.
Yes, what a good.
Okay, and
he was so handsome
and now I'm
today.
just on the Wikipedia
R.I.P.
for
Julian
Hellblazer, and the main image on the Wikipedia does look like Sting.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
so,
don't know if Sting is setting foot in this movie at all.
Well, but again, Alan Moore's writing this in the
he's writing it
in
in
the
the
90s, the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So the character, I feel like, is probably. I mean, even then, Sting was getting up there. By the 90s.
By the 90s, he was already in early 50s.
Did either of you two see this movie in the theater? I did not. I missed this.
I did.
I remember my friend at the time saw it without me, and I didn't get to this until home video.
Oh.
I saw it in the theater. That DVD on the coffee table is mine.
We had to dig out our DVD of this.
I was
from the
affected
closet.
enough by this movie to purchase it. I'm pretty sure I saw it with Earhart, and I don't think that he was impressed, but I was just like, that was really cool.
I think that I only saw this movie once.
Okay.
And I have not returned back to it since.
Yeah. You know,
I don't blame you.
There was something. There was something about that early 2000s kind of like occult. I don't know, like the way that this movie, it's very adjacent. It's right next to Hellboy.
Yes.
Right? It's so close.
Another movie that I absolutely love and would talk about forever.
Yeah. And the thing is,
I'd love to see a Del Toro pass with this material.
right.
I was just thinking that. Oh my God, can you imagine if Del Toro did this movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
my gosh.
The reason that it's not called Hellblazer is because it was being released so close to Hellboy.
Oh.
And so the studio was like, you can't call it Hellboy.
So this
Hellboy's
movie
coming out
was
first.
originally supposed to come out September of 2004.
Yeah.
And I think just with maybe they just didn't like the release schedule of what it would have been up to, that they moved it to February so they could kind of corner in on a better market.
Right.
And I think this movie, it made okay money. I don't think that it grossed back its budget. But it has gone on to kind of have a big cult following. You know what I think of this movie? Is that I really put myself in the place of blockbusters at this time. Actually, two kind of subgenre of blockbusters of the early 2000s. The first being all of the major movies to come out after Passion of the Christ, where religion was kind of in fashion to do major Hollywood movies for. I get this as a very different,
like a Da Vinci Code,
a different type of movie than the Passion of the Christ, but like the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
There was that Hilary Swank movie called The Reaping. Too. Catherine Hardwicke did a nativity story movie.
With Whale Rider,
with Keisha
Castle Hughes.
Yeah. So I kind of see it fitting into something like that because Constantine proposes everything from the Old Testament. It's all real,
literal.
Yeah.
This is a world in which the Bible is to be taken literally, right? Which I feel like if you look at it in that Del Toro lens, if you look at it like Hellboy and the occult and all of these things being actual real things, I think that's fun. I think there's a very interesting.
I wanted to put a little button on the second type of blockbuster I was thinking of. It's everything pre-MCU. So the MCU comes out in 2008, pretty much changes the game for how comic book movies are produced. This movie is early 2005, and I'm thinking kind of in the aftermath of The Matrix or Pirates of the Caribbean. It's that type of blockbuster where if I find myself drifting off, I will have no idea what is happening. That I have questions about this plot. If I was just zoning out or looking at my phone, I missed entire plot points.
Well,
from this
to
movie.
be fair, so did the characters because both Rachel Weisz's character and Shia LaBeouf's character are constantly asking Keanu Reeves, John Constantine, what's going on, and he never answers a damn question.
Much like me as I was watching the movie last night.
And I don't know if that's simply because it's easier for the writers to write it that way, that he's a character who doesn't give answers.
Right.
Or if they just, didn't know. They just didn't know, or that's just the character, or it was just easier to do it that way.
Sure.
Shia LaBeouf in this movie. Oh my God.
Shia LaBeouf, we could have had it all.
Just playing the same character type that he was in, this is the same character as Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. And 90% of his dialogue in this movie is, John. John,
take me with you. Let me in.
He reminded me of that Looney Tunes character. Do you remember the two dogs? There was a bulldog, and then there was like a little dog that was like jumping around after him, going, Spike, what are they doing? Spike, and that's was his character in this movie.
Sure, yeah.
And when I first saw this movie, I thought it was very charming back in 2005, and I guess now after everything that's gone on, I watched it again last weekend, and I'm like, God, he's annoying.
Sure.
Yeah.
So annoying. Well, why does he keep him around?
Well, that's the thing that Scott was saying. It's like at that point in Shia LaBeouf's career, everybody was blowing all this smoke of just like, oh, he's so charming, he's so relatable, he's our new Tom Hanks.
He's going to be the new Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Again, but I think you get a little charming vibe from him. But there is a lot of it does get a little repetitive after a while.
Yes.
Does the character lift right out of the movie?
Yes.
Maybe.
I think that you could easily recut this movie. If Shia was canceled in 2005, you could completely lift him out of this movie.
How old is Shia? Is he?
I think he's around my age.
Okay, because
he's pushing 40 now.
In the movie, he's like John's driver.
Yeah,
but he also looks like a kid, and I just kind of think of him at that time of being like this kid actor, and I was like, is he supposed to be like a short round, like a little kid that we're thinking that he's like not even old enough to drive? But then at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, shows his...
Who knew this movie had a post-credit scene?
That he was born in 85. So I was like, oh, so this movie's positing that he's 20. So so he's not like... He's not exactly like short round driving Dr. Jones around, but to me, I always just thought of him as like a teenager.
And I'm assuming that this is a character from the comic book.
So, in the Wikipedia articles I read, Constantine does have a friend who's named Chaz, but he's not a young guy. He's not his apprentice. He's like a buddy of his, who helps him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well. like I was saying, I think the this idea of like religion and Catholicism in particular, there's a lot going on there, and I think some of it's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah, especially for us,
yes.
You know, and that's part of why I was so drawn to this movie is because listeners, you may already know since you've been listening to this podcast for a while, but Pete and I are of Mexican heritage.
Yes.
So Catholicism is a big part of our growing up.
Yeah.
We were in Catholic school for 12 years, from first through senior year. And even though we are not practicing Catholics now, that stuff in your formative years just like gets in your subconscious, man. It gets in there. It gets, just embedded in there and just kind of colors like everything you see, even if you're not practicing. I mean, Pete and we're not even like Christmas and Easter Catholics. We're like, we only go when somebody's getting married, somebody's getting baptized, or somebody dies. But it just becomes like part of that where he and I don't even know the last time we both went to church, but if we were to walk in a church right now in 5 minutes, we would know when to stand, when to sit, when to kneel.
I grew up Catholic. Yeah. It all just comes back to me when I go there.
It's like muscle memory. Yeah. It just kind of comes in because it's just so ritualistic. And then you have this other aspect because, of our Mexican heritage. We're third generation on our mom's side and first generation on our dad's. But Mexicans, as far as like religion, you have this very Catholic aspect, and then you have this whole like Santeria, like other aspect, this like mixture that kind of coexists along with it. Like on the one hand, you go to church, but on the other, if you think you got negative energy, you do Olympia and you get an egg and you roll it all over your body.
We never really had to worry about getting the ojo, but I know a lot of people who did.
But our grandmas would go to church, but they'd also watch Walter Mercado.
Yes,
and
believe it.
And the daily horoscope. I don't know if you've ever talked about Walter Mercado on this podcast. If you haven't seen the documentary, you should.
Has he ever come up on the podcast? I'm sure he has.
We probably talked about the doc when it first came out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
and that's the thing, in the Catholic Church, it's frowned upon to be gay, but Walter Mercado was not a straight man.
No, he was like a Liberace,
right? So it's like,
and they didn't care,
right? So there's this concept of life after death, like with the Dia de los Muertos as well. Right. Again, something we didn't grow up with. Mm-hmm. I mean, our grandmas were not making altars to family members who passed on. Our Mama Concha did a great nativity set.
Yes.
That was great. It was multi-level. It had a big statue of 6-pound baby Jesus. but all the other little villagers were like 2 inches tall.
The baby Jesus was
very
ogre.
Elaborate.
Yeah.
But this idea that like once a year, like your loved ones who passed on come back to visit you as like ghosts, as spirits.
Yeah.
So at the same time you have Catholicism, but you have this other like native indigenous belief system coexisting. And I feel like this movie kind of shows all of that. Right. It's like this reality we're in, then like two alternate realities of heaven and hell and all these demons and angels. And when you grow up, sitting in mass once a week for 12 fucking years of your life, to think actually this is real.
Yeah.
This is actually going on right now.
Yeah. One of the big scenes where, it's Keanu and Rachel Weisz and they're on a street in downtown and the like demons are coming.
Yes.
They're right. There's all the lights go out in the street and it gets really dark. And the only light that stays on is in this shop, and it has a big statue of the Virgin Mary, and it's a botanica.
Yes.
And those are the places, these storefronts that they have all throughout Los Angeles and various places.
Right.
It's a witch doctor,
right?
It's a lady or a man, and you go in there, and they will roll the egg on you if you got the ojo.
Yep.
They'll do all this stuff. Are you familiar with the egg?
I think that you've talked about
I've talked about this.
Explain this to both me and listeners, please.
And in this economy, we're talking about eggs in this economy?
I just saw a meme about it. I think it was on the We're All Primos.
We are me too.
Yeah. Instagram that said, if you got the ojo in this economy, you're just out of luck. Because sorry about it.
Oh my God.
So the thing is that the mal de ojo is the evil eye. right? Yeah. And a lot of cultures have a thing about the evil eye. You know, there's, you know, in our apartment building, I've noticed about 3 people have something on their door of the little blue and white. So, and that I think is an Eastern European thing. I don't think that's a Latin thing. I think Armenians do the little evil eye thing on your front door. It's like a little porcelain thing. So in Mexican culture, in like Latin culture, that if you have the ojo on you, or if you feel like someone has put the evil eye on you, the way that they do it is that they get an egg and they like rub the egg on you, like on your body, and then they.
Are we going to crack this egg?
No, it's a raw egg.
Are we just doing like a white egg?
They crack it after.
They crack it after.
They crack it after, and then if it's like it supposedly will be all like
it's like a sponge
jacked up.
So
it's pulling the ojo out.
That pulls the negative juju out of you, and it gets encased in the egg, which you then break ritualistically afterwards to disperse that negative energy.
Yes, and so that's just kind of like. It's just something in culture that like we know about, and some people do it and some people don't. And you know, me and Damien and Lori would always laugh about the like something was going wrong. If you had bad luck, we would always be like, "All right, I'm gonna go break an egg on you. Like, gotta get this bad juju off you." But yeah, it cleanses people of the negative energy and the evil eye, and La Limpia, some people call it, or Yeah,
and that's the thing. Part of the imagery, again, is like in that scene, which I love that scene because it is the botanica, which is very much something in LA that you see all over LA, which is, as Mexican Americans, that's something we saw growing up in our neighborhoods. And then that scene where afterwards, where Rachel Weisz is standing, and the statue of the Virgin is right behind her,
right,
like it's holding her, protecting her.
Oh, right,
But also, she's also like standing in place of it in this bastardization version of the devil, the son of the devil coming through.
Right,
she's like the Virgin Mary, except for the devil in this, the son of the devil in this case.
Right.
And the imagery in this movie is just, it's really amazing. I mean, I talk about, we wish that. Del Toro had done this, but I think they did a really good job as far as
I want to
imagery.
mention a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about this director. So this is Francis Lawrence. Francis Lawrence came from music videos, and name a 2000s or late 90s music video, and Francis Lawrence, chances are,
probably
directed that movie. So some of his music videos that he has directed: Who Runs the World, Girls, Bad Romance, Circus, Buttons, Pump It.
Okay, so we're talking Beyonce, Lady Gaga,
Goo Goo Dolls. He's worked a lot with Jennifer Lopez. He did Waiting for Tonight. Did a lot of Justin Timberlake videos. Cry Me a River, Skater Boy. So this man did his time directing music videos. And when you watch this movie, the opening exorcism scene, this is shot like a music video of like how he's photographing the hallways.
Walking down the hall.
Yeah. This is a 2000s music video. Which, I mean, there are reasons why directors started in music videos in the late 80s and early 90s is because that is just sort of a really interesting art form. If you were like a storyteller.
Like David Fincher, right?
David Fincher, Mark Romanek, Michel Gondry. It's like they all did these very like visceral music videos.
The late 90s and early 2000s was like the renaissance of like the music video, right? It was like they were throwing money.
Yeah.
There were little movies, you know, and they were beautiful. And these directors that you mentioned all did like really, really, really good work. But yeah, there's just something about the Catholic iconography and the imagery and stuff. And I think I've told this story on the pod before too, but like one of the churches, the church in our neighborhood growing up was St. Lucy's Catholic Church.
I know exactly where you're going with
St. Lucy is the patron saint of the blind. And most icons of St. Lucy, she is standing with her hand out like she's holding a tray. And she usually is holding a tray. And in the tray are 2 eyeballs. And when we were kids, we were so small that when she was on a pedestal, and the pedestal was probably like a tabletop size, right? And then there's a life-size lady standing on it. So as kids, she's holding this tray and we see the bottom of it. And we would have to like jump or like try to climb up and see the eyes. And then we'd see the eyes and be like, ah! And scream because there's eyeballs in this tray.
Eyeballs in a tray.
And then the other church, Our Lady of Guadalupe, on the other side of the hill, has a full life-size Jesus laying on his back with like tulle covering him, because it's just like he's been brought out of the cave and here's his no, it was before he went into the cave. He's like freshly dead and he's just laying down and he's covered and there's just his dead Jesus body right there. And her grandma would make us touch his foot.
Yeah, she would.
Like,
she would.
rub
Yeah,
it, rub his foot.
That's part of it.
Was
is
it
that
for good luck?
You like a blessing, like you touch
Yeah.
it and then you do the sign of the cross,
Yeah.
or you kiss it, right?
Yeah.
That was part of
And
it.
the foot was the part that's closest to like the railing, so you could touch, you know. But I always remember it was like tulle that covered him, so it was like a shroud, but you could see him underneath it. And then that church also had like a crucifix in the vestibule that was behind. Was it a crucifix or was it a virgin that was like behind something? I remember it was like
railing
and then it was like off. Like,
can't remember.
yeah.
I mean, this is why artists like Madonna love to put in Catholicism
It's
imagery
just,
in all of their music videos.
There's really just so much pageantry to Catholicism.
Yeah.
There really
Have you seen
is.
Conclave yet?
No, I have not.
You should watch Conclave.
Okay.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, not fun, but I mean, it's about the Pope.
It's Catholic showgirls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to watch that. But again, too, just the fact that, like, in the beginning, when the Spear of Destiny is found in Mexico,
Right.
and I just remember watching that, going, "Of course, it would be found in Mexico.
Yeah.
Of course, that's where it would be found.
Right.
You know,
And of course, all of the Mexico scenes are shot in this orange filter because this is
That's
a
very- yeah.
movie that is
Yeah.
that is filming a scene in Mexico. So of course,
In the early 2000s.
you're going
Right.
to have
So
this
you got the-
Steven Soderbergh orange filter.
and the in the beginning, there's like these two little Mexicanos, and they're
Yeah.
just sitting on dirt, just like I don't know if they're scavenging,
Sitting in the dirt.
if they're trying to dig, and
Yeah.
they're just like they have no digging tools
No.
with them. No,
Yeah.
not a shovel, not a spade,
Using their
nothing.
bare hands.
They're just picking at it, and then they, the one guy just crashes through
Right.
and finds the spear, which is wrapped in a Nazi flag, which is never explained how or why. I think just to symbolize that it is evil.
Well, it's very evil, but also go watch Hellboy and they will tell you that, Hitler was very obsessed with the occult and probably another Hellboy tie-in. The actual prop that they use for the Spear of Destiny, the Holy Lance, the Spear of Longinus, whatever, what have you, this prop that they're using, it is in Hellboy.
Oh.
When they're in the BPRD and they're just like walking down the hall, there's like little things that are just in like cages and reliquaries and things. And among them is the actual prop from this movie, and they call it out. And then also is one of the there's like a little baby with its like spine like exposed from the Devil's Backbone.
Oh.
So he's got a lot of like little weird little things peppered through that movie. But the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny, is like a real relic, but it has been mostly debunked. Right.
And this is one of the spears when they were crucifying Jesus. It is the
spear.
spear that you see in crucifixion depictions
yes.
of the spear that's going through Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Or when you see the crucifix in church where he has like a slash on
Yeah.
his ribs, that's where he was stabbed.
And when you look it up, there's a whole like gory, gross thing about like when they crucify people and like, the position of your arms puts pressure on your lungs. And so, the victims would like pick themselves up by their knees were usually bent so that they could straighten up their legs to breathe better. But then their legs would tire out and they would slump down and put the pressure back on the nails in their hands and the pressure in their lungs so they couldn't breathe. So these centurions would like stick them with these spears either to like get them to die faster or to like make them prop themselves up so that they would breathe easier. It's a whole weird
the things
and gory,
that you learn in Catholic school.
Right.
Yeah. But, much like the Shroud of Turin and, these relics that are in every cathedral in the world, they have these reliquaries that have like the finger bone of Saint whoever. Yes. It's like, all right, okay. Shroud of Turin is cuckoo bananas, right? Are you familiar with the Shroud of Turin?
No.
This is supposedly a piece of fabric that it's a piece of tool at the Lady Guadalupe
that they wrapped Jesus in post death.
And the reason that they think it's the actual shroud is because there's an imprint of his face.
And do they have that in that church in Mexico?
No, that's not in Mexico.
To?
Turin is in Italy, so that's why it's called Shroud of Turin. Yeah,
but supposedly it's like always at a certain temperature,
something like that. And they've done these weird X-rays and things, and they're like, well, they can't fake it, whatever. But it's like, all right, Mama, I don't know. I don't know about this shroud. And then there's things like this, and the reason that they feel that the Holy Lance has been debunked is because it's the type of weapon it is like just the wrong period. They're like, this is this is not old enough.
They wouldn't have had spears like that.
Yeah, it's just period incorrect. It's
supposed in Jesus' times.
It looks a little bit more like they're saying that it's probably more like French, that it's probably like way later, like 8th century or something.
It doesn't quite look like
it's old,
it
but
belongs
it's
to the Romans.
Right,
yeah,
right, things like that. But it is an actual thing that it's. I wonder where. I don't know where it is now, but I mean, it was an actual. It's very much like the Holy Grail kind of a thing. It's like
I'm loving the side tangents on our Constantine episode.
It's part of the movie.
It's part of the movie.
It's part of the movie.
Yeah.
This whole philosophy.
It's a little bit of a MacGuffin because the whole thing about the lance is
really the Spear of Destiny doesn't really have anything to do with the plot of the movie.
It's got Jesus' blood on it, and they need that to do this whole reverse exorcism to bring back someone.
They're trying. What they're trying to do is the son of Satan is trying to come into our world,
right,
and take over as supreme being, I guess.
Right.
So Satan doesn't know that or Lucifer doesn't know that this is going on, and so Satan needs to have the help of someone on the side of God, and they need a powerful psychic, which is where Rachel Weisz comes in, and they need the spear. So she's the vessel through which the son of Satan is supposed to come forth, just like the Virgin Mary had Jesus.
Right. And they were originally doing that with the twin sister.
Yes.
Right.
But she killed herself before they could do that.
You know what? I mean, I get that this is set in a comic book version of LA, which I want to talk about the LA in this movie because I think it's kind of really cool.
Isn't it cool?
And we were just talking about burlesque. Speaking of fantasy versions of Los Angeles, and I think that what Constantine's doing is actually pretty interesting, but I'm kind of obsessed with somebody that looks like Rachel Weisz. At one time, was a part of the LAPD,
right?
Being like a police detective,
being a police detective,
so beautiful. In this movie.
Oh, I was I mean, I still am.
Beautiful.
Back in 2005, the height of kind of the Rachel Weisz explosion, I was obsessed with her.
Yeah,
and she's that very specific type of British actress that I think that us as gay men just kind of latch onto and we just claim.
Her makeup
in
this movie. Here's the thing, she's a cop and she wears all these little pantsuits.
Yes.
These cute little tailored pantsuits. And she looks so feminine and so dainty. She doesn't though I love those sneakers, those black cross trainers. She doesn't wear one dress, not one skirt, not one pair of high heels. And the only time she ever really exposes anything sexy is when she takes off her shirt and is wearing a tank top with the black bra underneath. She always wears a black bra under a white shirt.
Right.
I'm not sure why she does that.
Yeah.
And
it's the kind of little tank that has some buttons on it, so it opens a little bit, but not that much.
That's the sexiest she's ever dressed, but she's still so feminine.
Our thick eyebrow queen.
You know what I noticed? There were two moments in the movie where Keanu looked like he was going in for a kiss and then he didn't.
Okay. every character looks like they're going to kiss Keanu in this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's true.
The beginning when he's with Tilda Swinton.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, they're going to kiss any moment
And
now, and they don't. And I hope they did afterwards. I hope they gave that a test drive each.
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel like another movie would have gone in for a love story with those two, with John and with I forget the.
They kind of hint at it at the end,
right.
But Constantine is so emotionally unavailable in this movie, and maybe that's part of why I liked it so much back then. Because sadly, I was into emotionally unavailable men at the time. I've grown out of it since, but I think that's part of also why I liked it was that there wasn't this over romanticism. She was not over sexualized.
Right.
She still came off as very beautiful and sexy, but she wasn't. What's her name? Linda Kozlowski and Alan Quartermain in The City of Gold. You know, like she's not like this, like, you know, half naked, screaming all the time. Oh, you know, Constantine, what are you going to do now? She's not like that. She's smart, and she even gets annoyed with him. She's like, I'm a fucking cop, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same type of energy that Rachel brought to a character like Evelyn in The Mummy, too. Mm-hmm. Is that you can kind of take these very, dare I say, one-dimensional characters and just kind of make them interesting. I mean, 2005 was pretty good to Rachel Weisz. She started out with Constantine, and she finished out the year with The Constant Gardener, and she had a supporting actress Oscar early 2006. So,
Queen.
You better work.
Yeah, totally.
I love Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, but I think their dynamic in this movie is very. It's interesting, and I think another movie would have gone a different way with trying to shoehorn in a love story, even when neither of these characters is in any point of their life where they need to be in a relationship, let alone with each other. They're like the two most wrong people for each other. But we should probably. We haven't really kind of explained John Constantine as a character, at least in this movie, right? And what it is that he does. Is he psychic?
Yes. So he is psychic, and he had visions. And what happened?
Oh, that's
was
right. He could see the dead people.
He could see the dead people when he was a young man,
and it drove him to suicide when he was a teenager.
Yeah, because in this universe, when you have visions and you tell your parents or your family, everybody thinks you're crazy.
Right.
They put him in a mental institution.
I love what he said. So my parents did what any parents would do. They made it worse.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
Oh, shit.
And they show him getting, a young Keanu actor playing his character, getting, electroshock therapy and things like that.
Yep.
And so he attempts to commit suicide, but he is brought back to life. But when he dies initially, he immediately goes to hell. And this is one of the scenes of hell. I just love these scenes of LA, of the hell version of LA, which is freeways with cars that are just packed, that are going nowhere. The fire, the heat, the smoke, and sadly, what our alley actually looked like a few weeks ago. And that scene where where he's narrating when he committed suicide and when he dies, because you see the ambulance and then all of a sudden it just stops.
Right.
And then it just stops. Mid route, and everything goes to fire. And but then he's revived, and because he knows he's going to hell. He's like, fuck that. So, but it never explains these other powers he has, because he has other powers. It never explains how he managed to get into all these cool occult weapons and things.
I think the idea is that since he has been to hell and is now back on Earth, that he has kind of
he's kind of an expert on it.
He's a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah.
So he's accepted into these underground societies where they have these cocktail bars that are full of demons.
Yeah, who aren't even, and that scene made me laugh because I'm like, what are they doing that's demonic?
Yeah. They're just having drinks.
They're just having drinks and macking on each other.
Yeah, they were doing
and essentially
shit.
he's I want to use the term bioexorcist. He doesn't get rid of the living, but he's just kind of a exorcist for hire.
Yes.
Of that, if you need something taken care of, a possession. I mean, I'm sure that he does other things. I'm sure that he just gets rid of a demon that's living in your closet, that he's the guy that you call.
Yeah, but he's got that guy that's got like he makes all the weapons for him, but they're all like occult weapons.
Is that the guy? Is that the guy that lives in the back of the bowling alley?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was obsessed with the back of the bowling alley.
Isn't that a bowling alley? That's a bowling alley here in LA, right?
So
is it still in existence?
So it's not.
It's a little bit of movie magic when you watch it.
I think it's based on the Chateau Lanes in K-Town.
Okay.
But the exterior was not a bowling alley. They put that sign up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the exterior is Broadway. And what's Bradbury? Fourth? Third? Third on Broadway. Because the precinct is fourth. So it's right on Broadway, and it looks very different now, but you can see what they did to make it look
all
like
of the back of the bowling alley where his friend lived was giving me City of Lost Children.
Sure.
And Micmacs.
Micmacs, yeah. Very, very Genet.
Very Genet inspired.
Yeah. Well, also, this movie is very color corrected to have this, like, I don't know, what is it, like this golden sepia kind of like situation for a lot of, at least the hell scenes and things like that. But yeah, so John has this kind of, I think it's the idea that because he's been to hell, he's seen it, and now he's back, that he has a little foot in both worlds. But not only that, so he kind of, like we said, this movie is in a world where not only is the Bible literal truth, but kind of going off of like just Catholicism rules and stuff. Since the way he did die the first time was suicide, that means that when he does die for real, he can't go to heaven.
He's going straight to the hot place.
Anyway. Yeah, so he can see angels and he can see demons.
Right.
So I think he's trying to send as many demons back to hell to kind of buy his way into heaven.
Yes. And on top of all of that, he's a chain smoker with lung cancer that's like pretty much terminal.
Yeah.
His doctor is like, this is it. This is it. You need to stop. Like, come on. And so he just kind of like, all right, got to get this show on the road. Can only have he's on borrowed time already. So that's kind of John's character. And Rachel Weisz, for the most part, is playing Angela Dodson, but she's also playing her twin sister,
Dotson.
Isabel. We got Dotson here.
Not the twin sister before she jumps off the building, whispers Constantine on this closed circuit security footage
and they can hear it.
Picking up audio.
There's the mics on the roof.
Yeah.
You never know. It's a fancy hospital.
So you always point out this location, that this is the big soundstage.
The building
off of the freeway.
The building itself is Hollywood Center Studios, and when we leave the Alamo Draft House to come home, we jump on the 101 or the 110. I'm sorry, jump on the 110 for like 2 minutes, and it's immediately to the left. And every time we pass it, I always say, Rachel Weisz jumped off that building in Constantine.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Los Angeles of Constantine.
But they put a big cross on it, so it's a hospital in this movie. But
I think the LA is really interesting because if you're just a moviegoer that does not live in LA, maybe you wouldn't immediately think Los Angeles when you see this movie. I mean, you're going to see locations like the Capitol Records building and some big freeways, but for the most part,
it's downtown.
They're choosing to film everything in ways that don't look like Los Angeles. It's kind of that seedy underbelly of LA. And I mean, when you have somebody like Francis Lawrence that directs music videos, the effect is pretty cool.
Even from, the cab that Chaz drives, which is a very like New York City looking cab, and but it says Angel City. Which is really interesting. It's sort of like, it does give that sort of comic booky type vibe,
But even he said like when he gets attacked by the bug monster demon guy,
Oogie Boogie.
The Oogie Boogie. That's what I said. I was like, it's the Oogie Boogie demon. It's right after he has the scene with Tilda in the church, and Rachel has the scene with the priest, and he says to someone later on, he's like, "I was just attacked by a demon on Figueroa," and I looked it up, and the church is on Figueroa. It's on the other side. It's more by USC. It's St. Vincent something. I think it's St. Vincent de Paul, the actual church, and it's like this huge Catholic church. It's right on Figueroa. But yeah, it is in this part of downtown LA that we don't usually see, or even the building where they did the exorcism at the beginning with the girl. That I was like, yeah, this could be Hollywood, Koreatown, where our last apartment was.
Right.
Just parts of the city that don't usually get shown. Oh, it's that time. Our robot vacuum's talking again.
It always goes off during recordings.
I know. We'll fix it.
It just wants to be on the podcast.
I know
too.
it's yearning for a spot on the show. But so I was looking up the Asian family at the beginning of the movie, in which he performs the first exorcism, and that all the actors in that scene are Filipino, and I was like, well, they're practically Mexican. I'll take them.
They are also Catholic.
Yes, they're also Catholic, so they would be like calling in someone to do like this Catholic rite. So I was like, all right, I'm down with it. Love it. But yeah. The depiction of LA is very cool. It's very stylized, but we love it. So we mentioned Tilda Swinton. We mentioned this cast. We got to get to her character.
We didn't really talk that much about Tilda Swinton.
We got
to talk about Tilda Swinton in this movie. Icon.
Gabriel. Is it giving you gender non-binary?
Well, yeah, and that's the idea.
Which I love.
I think today, I think her hair is a little maybe too feminine. I think today they would even do something a little bit more like androgynous with her hair. But I think for 2005,
oh my god,
having this woman Tilda Swinton looking the way she does, playing this character of, at the end of the day, it's the Archangel Gabriel. It's very much like. Is the Little Mermaid black? Like, is Snow White half Latin? Does it matter? This is a fictional character in a book,
right?
But for the most part, these archangels are depicted as male, kind of androgynous. If you look at the,
but even when you look at the drawings of, or like the art of Gabriel, it has a very feminine look to it,
right?
Normally,
well, yeah, but technically, if you really want to get into the Bible, like. Angels have like a million eyes or something.
Right. If we the whole
wings or feathers or something.
We love
Old Testament
biblically accurate angels. Yeah, they've got like these like they're weird multi wings, many eyes, many heads, like weird like orbital rings around them, also with eyes. Like what is going on? They don't look like people. But when you look at like Renaissance paintings of angels,
they're I think they're genderless,
right?
And so she was perfect casting, just so amazing. And that scene where Keanu calls her out and she comes flying down on him and is standing on him with her foot on his face.
Yes.
And he is just struggling, and she's just like, blah blah blah. You're so egotistical, blah blah blah, with just her foot right there.
Yeah,
just like,
oh my god, quiet. The way this delivery,
quiet,
she's
like,
I love that.
I
love Hollywood at this time.
Really,
this was the moment where they knew that they had something with Tilda. She was doing all of these artsy fartsy art house movies made in England and stuff. Like she was in Orlando, she was in all sorts of stuff. But this is at the time where they're like, oh, this woman is really interesting.
Yes. And
we can do some really cool things with her. So I think that this was kind of a big moment of her career where she kind of leveled up, and it kind of sent her on to all this great stuff afterwards.
So
are we going to talk about Gavin?
Well, we have to talk about Gavin Rossdale. I do want to talk a little bit more about Gabriel.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is that when you start reading the Bible and angels as characters in the Bible and what they are and all of that, there are what are referred to as choirs of angels, right? And the different choirs of angels do different things. And there's the cherubim, and there's the seraphim, and there's the archangels, and they go down the list of like how powerful they are and what they do and all of that. And the archangels, so it says Gabriel is an archangel with the power to announce God's will to mankind. I think the biggest thing that we know is that that Gabriel is the one that came down to the Virgin Mary and told her essentially,
yes,
we put a baby in you. and you need to make arrangements for this.
Which she did not, because they ended up in a manger on the way to
right, with no reservations.
No reservations.
But Gabriel later appeared to the shepherds at Jesus' birth. So
right.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
Right. And then there is the Archangel Michael. Let's see. The earliest image of his name. But when you look at their depictions, this is Michael, right?
Yeah, Michael's always kicking Satan's ass.
Michael's always fighting.
Yeah.
Always has the armor. Always has, the big wings. This is the other one it's our friend Celestial, SP sister. She loves this image of Michael.
House down boots.
She's done this.
Who looks
always
like
stomping.
Tilda Swinton in this picture?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. This is why I'm pulling this up, because these images, this is Gabriel and this is Michael, but these are these Renaissance paintings. Their features are very feminine. Their facial features are feminine, while their bodies, I don't know. I mean, can you even tell? Look at their bodies and say that that's a man or a woman. It's very interesting. The depictions of them in art, and I think that it was just kind of groundbreaking at the time to have her in this role, and I think that it was very cool. Like in this picture in particular, and we'll put this on the Instagram, listeners. This picture in particular, the wings look very much like they did in the movie.
Yeah,
not white. I think I read that the director didn't want the wings to be like dove white wings. He wanted them to be like a blackbird almost. And when you see them, the wings, when they first pop out, they're white, but they have this like dark outline around them. So they look like a real, like an animal.
Yeah. And that's not only at Tilda's character, because another angel is shown later who also has black.
Yeah, has the black in them. But see, this image has they're just white here. But the main one of Michael, they have the black around them. But yeah, I feel like in these Renaissance images, they look a certain way, and then this one is fighting these devils, and they've got bat wings. Mm-hmm. Love that. But yeah, just kind of your classical image of angels is just these characters with these wings that are feathered. It's a little bit like Dogma. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in Dogma have the big wings. With these huge feathers. But and then later on in her kind of final showdown appearance, she's all in white. Because first when we see Tilda is in like a business suit, right? And then later on we see her all in white, and she's got like the hospital like
the business
bracelets.
Suit was giving me very express yourself.
Was it Gautier?
Yeah.
She did not have a cone bra.
Business suit by Gautier.
Yeah. But the final showdown suit is this white thing with like straps everywhere, and she's got like hospital bracelets on that say like, I forgot what they said, but they said like sorrow, or like they had like different things written on the like her hospital bracelets and all that. But just very stylish, very high fashion, very like distinctive look.
And again, very androgynous, because in the shirt she's wearing, it's all wrapped like hospital bandages almost, but no cleavage, just all the way up to her collarbone.
I was going to say it almost looks like she's bound.
Yeah, like she's bound.
Mm-hmm.
Very
cool. In the top
so
that she's
cool.
wearing. Yeah. So they also introduce with Tilda, I think it's the first time they do it in the movie, where they show her pupils have that like reflective red in her eyes, like animals. When you see, when you shine a light in an animal's eyes.
I was asking you, what were we just watching where
they
did
do that?
Was it a vampire movie?
Probably. They do it a lot in vampire movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we should talk about Gavin Rossdale. In a
we were just
rare
talking
acting
about
role.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Bling Ring. Like Gavin's done some acting here and there. We were just talking. So remember back to the 90s. Was Bush ever cool?
They were on K-Rock quite a bit.
They were. They
were
play
in heavy
but were they
rotation.
But were they cool though?
But so was like Flagpole Sitters was on heavy rotation.
Yeah, I don't know that they were necessarily cool. They were popular.
I remember when I was growing up, I feel like all the football players listened to Bush.
Probably.
So I bought the first album. I bought the CD.
Was it just self-titled Bush?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
No, it was called 16 Stone.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Like Bush wasn't cool as far as like K-Rock, but they weren't on Kiss FM.
Yeah, that's true. They were played on like alternative stations, but I think as far as like cool people, I think it was a little. I think the general consensus was that they really wanted to be Nirvana. Like it was kind of like ripping off.
Yeah.
Nirvana. I think a lot of people kind of thought that. And yeah, I bought the first album about 16 Stone, and I remember just thinking these songs all sound very similar. And his voice is like very like his affectation of that like growly voice. It's just like, oh, it's a little try-hardy. So yeah, I always kind of thought they were a little posery. And even when like Gwen Stefani started going out with him, I was like, Gavin, really? I don't know.
I felt like that was a win for her.
For her.
Because you know what? She was crying all the time about her mid-bandmate, Tony, whatever his name.
Mid.
He's totally mid. All those songs where she's crying, don't speak. And she's crying about, you know, oh, I always thought he'd be a good dad. About that guy? Dumped her ass. She's crying on stage every concert, and then she meets Gavin Rossdale, who, whatever you want to say, is a fine ass man.
Yeah, great looking
and
guy.
You know, that was a win. You know, that was for all the girlies. So it's like, oh, you know, you couldn't get this man to commit. Well, guess what? Some hot, more successful dude is going to come down the line and marry you, and sadly that did not work out for them.
Sure.
But I feel like his whole role in this movie was just to deliver some lines and be fine, and he did that.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of it was just we want a suave guy in a suit to kind of counterbalance I don't not even counterbalance Tilda, because she was a suave guy in a suit too. So,
she was even more suave than he was, girl.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think this casting could have been anybody. I think it feels a little stunt casty.
I mean, it makes sense since Lawrence did come from music videos that it would be a musician.
Sure.
Do you think, since Francis Lawrence had worked with Jennifer Lopez, that Jennifer Lopez was at least offered the Rachel Weisz character?
Oh, no, that would have been a totally different movie.
Maybe they felt like they were really shelling out the money for Keanu post Matrix that they didn't really have it in the budget.
Sure.
I was trying to watch the movie and think, what if this is Jennifer Lopez?
Sure.
As I was watching
this
it.
would have been a much more cartoony movie. I feel like Rachel Weisz actually brought some gravity.
Brings some, yeah. That's
very
true.
different types of actresses and energy too.
I mean, you know, J-Lo did The Cell, which is kind of
The Cell.
wheelhouse.
Speaking of The Cell, Tarsem was developing this movie before.
That was the thing. I was like,
I
wonder. Yeah, so Tarsem is developing this with Nick Cage. That falls through. Tarsem Singh is he directed The Cell. He directed the Losing My Religion video, which also has religious iconography in there. There's Doubting Thomas in there, like sticking his finger in the wound. You know, all of that stuff. Famously, Gaze. He directed. No, did he direct 911? Yeah, the Lady Gaga 911 video. Yeah. So that would have been very interesting because we love all the imagery that Tarsem brings.
I think that once Nick Cage left the project, he went with it because he didn't want to make the movie without Nick Cage.
So if Jennifer Lopez is in this movie, is she Mexican?
She's Puerto Rican.
She's not Mexican. She's Puerto Rican.
She's Puerto Rican.
Selena wasn't
Boricua. She's Boricua.
I think Jennifer Lopez would have played it as Mexican. But okay, so I want to get to, because we were talking about some really cool choices that they made with kind of the angels and their look. I want to talk about another character. Hold on one second. Why is that so low? Oh, sorry. I want to talk about another character.
Could it be
Peter Stormare.
I'm into the Satan casting. I think it's interesting.
I am not.
So I think it's interesting.
I am 1,000% not into this casting.
I'm into it.
I feel like is it Lucifer?
It's supposed to be Lucifer.
Lucifer, right?
Yes.
And Lucifer is not Satan. Or is Lucifer Satan?
They're the same.
Are they the same? One and the same?
It's like, you know, what is it? Zeus and Jupiter, you know, or whatever. It's like they're the same characters, just different
Isn't
names.
Satan's formal name Lucifer because that was the name of the angel that was cast out of heaven?
He was the angel who was cast out of heaven. Lucifer meaning light, and he was supposed to be the most beautiful.
Right.
And he was God's favorite.
Right.
And
okay.
he got jealous of man because then man became God's favorite.
Got
and so he tried to rise up, and then he was cast out of heaven. And so I think, here I am again with Julian sounds. I think that it should have been a more beautiful.
Sure.
And even if not beautiful, he should have still been beautiful, but ravaged.
Right.
He should have been full of anger and despair and grief at being cast out.
Right.
And so I think it should have been someone who was a little bit more physically attractive. But that's
I don't know. I kind of like Peter Stormare from Fargo.
Peter Stormare is a weirdo. And I like that he's a weirdo, but the character, it's interesting choice. And I read that these choices for this look were very much brought by Peter Stormare. The feet covered in tar and a white linen suit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The feet covered in tar is kind of cool. Cool idea. Mm-hmm. The white suit, and he just kind of has this like.
This is definitely the type of
look.
Man that your grandmother is going to be telling you if he's knocking on your door and he's wearing a white linen suit and tar on his feet. That's the devil, and you don't let him in.
Who was it? Who could it possibly be? Was it? Oh, I don't know. Say it.
Well, Satan's supposed to tempt you to do evil. This man would not tempt me to do anything except run away, and I do not run.
Yeah. Okay, so he's brought in because at the very end. Oh, okay. I want to ask a question here.
Okay.
Why is Gabriel evil now?
I was
just mad.
I was asking you to explain that to me last night.
And I said,
when
we're going to talk to Amy about this.
Okay, so from what I remember, because I rewatched the movie last weekend, is that she feels that humans have it too easy.
Right.
Because all we have to do is go to confession and be like, oops, my bad.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, as Catholic school kids, you start going to confession when you're in the second grade.
7 years old.
I can tell you how fucking terrifying it is to go in this dark closet and sit and kneel and try to come up with sins.
Yeah.
Most of mine were about stuff I did to you, Pete. Just like
I think so too.
I
feel
was
like
mean to my brother. Please
I
forgive
fought
me.
with my sister. Like, what are we? I'm 7.
Right? What are you gonna say? It? It's so scary.
And what is Father O'Sullivan telling 7-year-olds? He was just like, go say a couple Hail Marys.
Yeah,
like,
that was it. And it had like that window that you couldn't see them because it was kind of like frosted.
It was this weird corrugated frosted. There were holes in it, and
But that's kind of the whole thing about confession is that you just go, forgive me, Father, for I have sins, and then you're forgiven, and then you get to go into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabriel's like, that's kind of BS, which I kind of agree with.
And she was saying criminals, murders,
all
rapists.
This stuff.
They just have to go confess their sins.
Yeah, and then
you're welcome into God's embrace.
Unless you kill yourself, because we talked about that he's, if you do that, that's a capital cardinal
because he took a life.
And
that's what she tells him. You took this is because of the life you took.
Yeah.
Which was his. She doesn't say it was wrong, but that's implied. But that's the thing. So she wants to bring hell on earth to make humans really work for it and appreciate God's love and really strive for it. That's the psychology behind it.
And then cut to final showdown. She got the spear.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the powerful psychic, Rachel Weisz, and she's ready to go for it. And so Constantine thinks the only way I can stop this is by getting old Lucy up here to say, no dice, not on my watch.
Yes, because supposedly Constantine is the only soul that Lucifer will come to collect himself.
So he says, all right, got it. I'm on it. Mm-hmm. So he slits his own wrists in banking on Lucifer coming to get him, which he does. And then he's like, before you come get me, go look at what's going on over there. Mm-hmm. And then that's when Lucifer goes and puts the smack down.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
So when Gabriel was sent to Earth as a human or just a mythical being? I told you I have a lot of questions.
An angel disguised as a human. She acts like she's a human. She interacts with people as though she's human. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks she's human. Only Constantine can see that she's not.
Yeah.
He's one of the few people who knows that she's not. So I guess she's some sort of church official because she's at the church.
Right. Yeah, and it's very interesting when they both get there to the church at the same time.
Yeah.
Get to the church on time. He's like,
how is she making a living and paying her rent?
Don't worry about it.
They're magic.
Don't worry about it.
She doesn't. She goes to heaven every night and goes sleeps in the clouds.
No, but she's trapped. I think she's trapped.
I think
on
she's
Earth.
trapped here,
Yeah.
and I almost think that is she trapped in some sort of a human body?
No, because she has her wings.
She has her wings. I don't know.
Maybe this is explained in the comic books
I'm
that
thinking
we have not read.
I think I'm thinking too hard on it.
Yeah, maybe It just looks cool, Scotch. It's just cool. What year was Dogma?
Dogma was
90s.
2000, 99?
99, 2000, yeah. Because they did the whole, like, we've got big feather wings, and they had the armor that looked like those pictures that I was showing you.
Dogma, I wonder how that one is to rewatch. Do you think it's rough?
Probably.
It's probably rough.
But, I mean, Kevin Smith grew up Catholic, so all of the religious stuff in that is Catholic iconography as well. So they talk about, things like the crucifixion and, like, these stories that are way at the end of the Bible. And, well, the crucifixion's not at the end of the Bible. But, I mean, all the Revelation stuff is at the end of the Bible, all that scary, spooky stuff. In that movie, God is played by Alanis Morissette. Interesting choice. God is not depicted in this movie.
No.
Spoken about,
but
not actually depicted, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very interesting that so now John's got to make a deal with Lucifer, with Satan. Like, okay, take me back, whatever.
Well, what happens is Lucifer says, "Okay, I guess I owe you something."
Yeah.
What do you want? And so then Constantine says, "I want you to release Isabel,
the sister,
yeah,
from hell."
From hell. So he says, "Okay, fine."
Done.
And he does it. Done. So now he's so happy because now he can finally take Constantine down to hell with him. So I love how it's depicted how he tries to drag Constantine down to hell, but he cannot. Suddenly Constantine becomes like heavy as like 1,000-ton ball or something like that because he cannot pull him. The ground, crumbles.
Yeah,
like he
starts buckling
underneath him, and I just love that imagery. But because Constantine has now actually done his first selfless act, he has now gotten into heaven.
Yeah,
and so Satan can't take him anymore.
But, I mean, all the work that he's been doing this whole time, which is, like, we're told that he's trying to, these characters keep saying to him, you're trying to buy your way into heaven, which is kind of what he's doing. But, I mean, why is what he's done now any different than... He's been helping people this whole time. Mm-hmm. He's been,
he's been doing
demons
his civil service.
Yeah.
Well, I think because the intent behind the other civil service was, I'm going to get out of hell by doing this.
Right. This was more selfless.
This was... by doing this, I'm still going to go. I'm going to go to hell. I'm guaranteeing I'm going to hell. I could have asked for myself to be absolved. I could have asked for anything for myself.
But I said take her instead.
But I said take her instead.
Yeah.
And so that is why it got him, because it was the first selfless thing where he was doing it not for himself, but for someone else.
Okay. Scott, what did you think? You liked Peter Stormare's depiction of Lucy.
I think that it's just weird. I just like that. I just like that it's this actor from stuff like Fargo and The Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
I just think it's just kind of interesting.
And
when you think of him as the devil,
sure. And he's like,
I think he's from Sweden.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like Nordic or something. Yeah, because he's got that accent. That's real. That's like his crazy He is. Yeah, he's Swedish. You're right. Played Hamlet for Ingmar Bergman. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was 20 years ago. He's looking pretty old now. He's 71 now. But yeah, I think the whole like music video director aspect of it with all of the visuals, I think it all plays into to the final product. Like I said, I read that it was the actor Peter Stormare's idea to have this kind of look, because what he was originally presented was a little bit more like rock and roll, Satan, and he was like, I don't
which
know
feels kind of played out,
yeah, like a leather pants kind of thing. So yeah, maybe not 100%, in the right direction, but
It's interesting.
Give him points for creativity.
Yeah.
I think that this movie would have benefited from a follow-up.
Right.
Like, I do want to see the further adventures of Constantine.
Yeah.
And it was just published in Deadline last week that Keanu said that he has been doing talks of a Constantine 2. So they are at least discussing doing a follow-up to this movie.
I heard that they actually finalized a script in November.
Yeah. Like, I think that it's pretty much in the works. Like, it made it into Deadline that it was seriously being discussed. And I think that they're just sort of finding a script that they can film, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because, yes, the character of John Constantine was on death's door throughout this movie, but old Lucy decided to get rid of all of his ills and say, you're going to stay. If I can't have you, then he can't have you either. So you're going to stay on Earth. And
Toxic
maybe
X.
when you stay here, then you're just going to keep doing your little shenanigans.
No one can.
Yeah. And you'll end up in hell the old fashioned way.
Yes.
So
you'll
says,
be back.
Not only are you alive, but you're now completely healthy.
And I love how that imagery as well, where he just shoves his hands into Keanu's kidneys and then or I guess his lungs, I guess, and he pulls them out, and it's just all that black tar again, all the cancer that he just pulled out of him. Yeah, if only it were that easy. Yeah. So that would be how John Constantine's still around 20 years later.
I mean, Keanu's aged like fine wine too.
Yeah. Oh, he certainly.
And if he's still smoking those cigarettes, I mean, if he was back to zero playing field after the end of the last movie.
Well, at the very end, they show him chewing some gum, which I think is supposed to indicate that he's trying to quit.
There you go. All right. On a recent episode of Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Keanu Reeves and Francis reunited to discuss Constantine's 20th anniversary and its potential future. It's just fun to be in the same room and talk Constantine, Reeves said. Akiva Goldsman is writing, and Keanu and Akiva and I have been collaborating, and I think we have some really great ideas, said Francis Lawrence. So that's cool.
One day ago from Variety, Keanu Reeves recently pitched Constantine 2 to DC after trying to make the sequel for over a decade. We're going to try and write a script, so I think they're just finalizing something that they can film.
Sure. Well, that'll be interesting. And it seems like Francis Lawrence is on board with all this, so it might be the same director moving forward.
I mean, he still steadily works. He did all the follow-ups to the Hunger Games.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to see where this character is today. And I mean, they could very easily bring back some characters for this one. I don't know that Rachel would be that interested.
Yeah, I think that the story has kind of closed itself out.
Yeah.
I would just hope that if they do bring another actress in, that she's not 20 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that they bring somebody who's more age appropriate. I would love to see, a woman in, her 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least 30s at minimum. God damn.
I mean, just looking through, I mentioned this before, but looking at Francis Lawrence's video input, he gave us the Bad Romance video. That's
He directed Bad Romance?
Like, that video is...
Wow.
I mean, that's like 21st century art.
Yeah.
I mean,
regarded as one of the great videos of the modern age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or the modern age being like 15 years ago.
Let's see. Bad Romance is a 15-year-old
video
on YouTube, but it has 1.9 billion views.
I would say I would say Bad Romance is the closest thing to my generation has had to something like the Thriller video.
It was huge.
It was huge
everywhere. People were, yeah, and we watch it weekly. No, we don't watch it weekly, but it still holds up.
You do the choreography in your living room weekly.
I mean, I could probably do some of it by now, but yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize.
Put Lady Gaga on Constantine too.
Ooh,
why not?
She's very young. She's your age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Is
she
she
is my
really?
age. Yeah, she's my age.
86. Yeah.
We're both going to be 40 this next year.
Wow, she's my height. That's it. That's
Oh,
all I
yeah.
got. That's all I got.
I got a comment with Lady Gaga. Yeah.
Tiny little thing.
Put Lady Gaga in Constantine too. She could be an angel.
I was going to say, she could be some biblical character.
Good.
Yeah, I like it. Don't put her in the Botanica with rubbing an egg on anybody. Lady Gaga's not a Mexican. She Puerto Rican.
She put it
Italian.
She is Italian. Lady Gaga.
just like Madonna.
Among other things. But yeah, that would be very cool. I love that. But then we get the Tarsim connection again. Maybe. Well, he's out. Francis Lawrence is in. We didn't talk too much about Djimon Hounsou. And
Djimon Hounsou.
character.
Playing the same.
What's his
type
name? Miracle
of,
Max. What's his name?
Isn't he a voodoo doctor in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a witch doctor.
A witch doctor.
Not Miracle Max.
Yeah.
That's from Princess Bride. He is Midnight. Something Midnight. Yeah. He's a witch doctor, so they say. Do you think he's playing type?
Yeah. Djimon Hounsou definitely has a series of characters that he's played in every single movie, and this is definitely one of them.
All right. But it's that thing where John's character needs to get himself to the Nether world.
Yes.
And so in the one scene he used her cat, and now he's got to get electrocuted and this makeshift
I
electric
love the
chair.
cat scene. I think the cat scene.
Yes.
I think the cat scene's my favorite part.
Yes. And again, it's this whole idea that cats live in both worlds,
Yeah.
which is also a
One
very
foot in, one foot
Egyptian type
Sure,
of philosophy.
Yeah.
And so in that way he goes that first time, and then in the second he uses an electric chair that apparently I guess many serial killers were killed at in Sing Sing or something like that.
Yeah.
And in that scene where he goes down to hell, that's that iconic. Again, Scott, you talk about the music video, sort of directing that iconic scene where he's trying to escape, and he's climbing up all the cars in the parking lot, and then all the demons are chasing after him, and then he's reaching up to the sky while they're all crawling up, and he has the hospital bracelet, but he also has that bomb made of holy water.
Right, the Christmas tree
Yes.
ornament of
That he
holy
just,
water.
I would believe that hell would be right underneath the 101 freeway.
If it is not the 101 freeway,
That's about right. Maybe maybe the 405.
Probably.
So, Scott, we were talking last night. I said, hey, I think they're using some puppetry in this movie for these demons. And they did. And one Miss V. Neal, friend of the podcast, our patron saint of prosthetic makeup design, with her nailography,
Her giant acrylics.
Yeah, she did. So this is the shot Amy's talking about. Of him climbing out of. It's very European Vacation.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes, sort of.
It's the Star Wars poster,
but
with,
that's
but
the
with
image that
demons.
they put on all their DVDs, on the movie posters. Which
this is a big marketing push for this imagery here. But there are the creatures that have the tops of their heads, kind of taken off. And there's a couple of shots when he's in hell, and one of them's looking for him, and it's it can't see, so it's using its nose.
Wow, that's a creature effect. It's not CG.
Well, parts of it are CG, full body is, but there's some where it's from the shoulders up, and it's a creature.
It's a puppet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So they had Stan Winston and his team come in. And V. Neal, who did the makeup design for, or the applications at least for Beetlejuice and Catwoman, and a lot of these iconic characters, is credited at least for the makeup effects and the puppetry in this movie. So I think they did some really cool stuff with kind of combining ways of processes, using live things on set as well as CG artifacts later on. So I think that was really cool of them to do that. But yeah, this movie would probably look very different if it was made today. Because movies just look different today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, most definitely.
But I think they did a really good job with it's just oh man, I'm scrolling through the imagery here, so I'm getting to some pictures reminding me of things from the movie. But can we talk about the Thornbirds priest for 1 second?
Oh, sure. The hot priest.
I was like, who is he, though?
Yeah.
Who is he, though?
I know. Gabriel's here now. Are you available?
Excuse me.
Richard Chamberlain Jr. there.
How old are you, and why are you he's not a priest because the little white thing is missing from his collar.
Priest in training?
He hasn't earned it yet.
Novitiate. He's like Sister Mary Robert from Sister Act. He's like he's still
half the habit, half the little neck thing.
Yeah, but I remember seeing it in the theater. I remember watching it last night, just being like, "What? Who are you?" We didn't talk about the Heavenly Brass Knuckles.
Heavenly Brass Knuckles
I love
are iconic.
All the weapons.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
The Christmas
they are
tree,
really
the Christmas
so
tree
fun.
ornament of holy water grenade. So, and when the guy said it, his little like Q guy was like, "And this is
E-man.
holy water from the Angel Gate or for the River Jordan."
Yes.
And
we didn't talk about
the dragon's breath.
We didn't talk about the dragon's breath flamethrower.
He's just wasting.
Which I'm just like, so there's like witches and wizards in this universe of the movie.
Yes.
Of the movie.
You know, there's probably dragons in the Bible.
Doesn't every culture have dragon mythology?
Yeah, I
and
think
isn't
that's
that
the whole
so
thing,
interesting?
Yeah, that a lot of ancient cultures have their own dragon mythology. That's kind of cuckoo.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
It all comes from dinosaurs.
I think so.
Were they digging them up?
Cultures discovering dinosaur fossils. Why not?
But why would they all think that they breathed fire? That's the thing.
That's true. They all have very similar kind of mythology.
That they flew and breathed fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they flew. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, okay, maybe they found pterodactyls, but why do you think that they breathed fire?
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, I think all of the big gun that's got like a cross on it has all. This is a very Del Toro.
Yeah,
yes,
this is a very Hellboy weapon. But when he says, these little grenades here are filled with water from the River Jordan, I remember as a kid, and I don't know whose house we were at, but listeners, we come from a family that. The matriarch of our family, our grandmother, had 12 brothers and sisters, several of which had 10 or more children. So our mother has 50 first cousins.
Minimum.
So we were at somebody's house. I don't know whose house. One of the great aunts or uncle's house. Maybe Uncle Tony. Maybe I don't know whose house. But we were there for some reason. Not Uncle Tony. I mean Uncle Louis. We were there for some reason doing something, and there's other cousins running around. And these are all our like second cousins, I think, because our parents are first cousins, and now we're whatever. And I remember we were there, and I was in the living room with some kids, and there was like a bowl, and one of the great aunts came in, and she was like, "Don't spill that. That water's from the River Jordan." And I was like, "What?
Well,
from the Holy Land?
Did somebody take a trip to Israel or something?
Maybe."
But didn't
our grandma went to Rome?
Yeah, our grandma went to Rome, and I thought she had the Virgin Mary that held holy water, and it glowed in the dark.
And it had a music thing inside that when you wound it up, it played the Ave Maria.
Yes, but
the cap that you took off to pour the holy water in it. The cap was her crown. The cap was the crown.
That's also so camp.
And it was blue, and she glowed in the dark. She was white, but it was that kind of glow in the dark that was like yellow, greeny. So 70s. And she bought this at the Vatican.
Was it at the Vatican? Because
Yes.
I was going to say, was it at Lourdes?
I think it was from the Vatican. Because she also had the little teeny tiny Pietà. That was from that.
Yes. But, Anita, who was married to our Uncle Richard, she talked about actually going to Lourdes or something like that.
Yeah,
and she remembered our cousins Eileen and Debbie going
Okay.
into the river or something, wherever the water was.
Yeah, the spring.
Yeah, the spring
The well
or
spring.
whatever.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. Yeah, that kind of stuff's crazy. Trips to the Holy Land, all of that.
Yes.
Our friend Marlene has done that. She went to Lourdes. She did the whole trip, and we were in Mexico City. We saw where Juan Diego encountered the Our Lady of Guadalupe, and we saw the actual relic in the church, and the statues out back depicting him opening the tilma and the roses falling to the ground and all of that. We saw all of that, with our own eyes, but we didn't bring back water from the spring.
No.
And just have it
if
in a
only
bowl.
you could have. Well, I mean, I remember being in Madrid, and you just walking down the streets with the shops, and there'd just be a shop just full on statues that you would buy
life
for charge,
size.
life size,
Life size.
and you're just like,
whole crucifix.
you can just buy this in this church, in this store.
Church ass 6 foot tall crucifix,
like religious mart.
Yes,
yeah, crazy. Mexico was.
They have those all around Mexico City.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was like, oh, this is where you get them.
Yeah, so just this, religion, Catholicism, iconography, it's a whole thing, and I think when movies do it right, it's fun, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're coming at it from this view of being raised Catholic but not really practicing. So I think maybe people who are a little bit more devout, I don't know how they would see something like this.
I mean, if I would have seen this movie as a kid, every time I would have been in mass, I would have been fantasizing, daydreaming, like fighting with the stuff that Constantine has in this movie.
Yeah. He does things with like his tattoos that are just symbols
on his,
cool
on his arms.
Never explain what it does, but for a long time I wanted those tattoos.
Right.
I thought they were so cool.
I even get Keanu's performance. I think there's some bisexual energy going on.
Yes.
Well, the character canonically is bisexual. As that character has had relationships with men and women in the comics. That's not something they really explored in this movie, but I think by casting, Tilda's casting, David's casting,
definitely,
they were kind of trying to go there, but not really.
And apparently, there was a female love interest for him in the movie who was like half demon.
Okay.
But she was cut.
That's probably the Michelle Monaghan character that I pointed out.
Oh,
and
interesting.
so when at the end, where they put holy water in the sprinkler system,
yeah,
during the ritual, and then someone says,
"Holy water."
That's her.
Sprinklers,
so she was supposed to have been his love interest.
Okay, got it.
You mentioned that you recognize Michelle Monaghan.
Yeah. And I thought it was like, that is an extra. Why is she?
Yeah.
Interesting. Had we seen this movie a little younger, I think we would have been like mind blown.
Yes.
Even though I sometimes had trouble following this movie, it was still a fun revisit, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's fair that you would, because it is pretty convoluted.
Yeah.
And
I mentioned before, I mean, all Hollywood blockbusters at this time were unnecessarily complicated. If you actually sit down and try to watch any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies,
oh god,
those are pretty much impossible to follow.
Oh yes.
Yeah. The tattoos on his forearms are an alchemy symbol, and they represent the Red King.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Neither do I.
Is it the Crimson King? No, that's the Stephen King thing. Is it an Alice in Wonderland? Alchemy symbols, very big in the tattoo world about 5-10 years ago. I mean, they still kind of are, but they're not as hot as Pinteresty as they used to be. I'm not really sure what the whole deal with alchemy symbols are. I mean, I have many tattoos myself, but I never really went down that route. I know a lot of people who do. You see them on people's fingers, a lot. But yeah, I'm not really too versed in that kind of symbology. Mm-hmm. All I know is mostly the element symbols.
Yes.
Those are the alchemy symbols of.
Yeah, you see those on Knuckles a lot.
Yeah, water, earth, air, and fire. The triangles with strike throughs, things like that. But that's what those tattoos represent on him. So we'll have to do a little dive about the Red King.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Amy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's fun to have a sister on the podcast.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like our sisters were such huge parts of our lives growing up, especially how we sort of absorbed entertainment that we always remember watching movies with. You remember watching movies with Amy. I remember watching movies with Nicole. So it's fun to have you on the podcast to discuss movies with.
Yes. And, I think this was such a great movie for you to talk about too, because you have my sister is a very talented. I mean, how do you explain it? Like card reader.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So I do read tarot cards on the side as sort of a hobby, but I've been studying them now for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good at it, I think.
Yeah.
So also the angel cards, the oracle cards, just into a lot of the esoteric type of modalities and things like that.
Okay.
So that's also was part of why I was so drawn to this.
Yeah.
To this franchise. Or this particular movie, because this has like very little bearing to the source material, I think.
Very cool. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for coming on. This was a ton of fun.
And
think about some more movies, and we can definitely do this again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if have you done Hellboy?
We have not.
We've not done Hellboy.
No.
Hellboy.
That would be a fun one to do.
Yeah. We love Del Toro.
Are the elves in Hellboy 2?
That's 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
The elves are very cool in Hellboy too. I love all that stuff. But yeah, great work. We'd be more than happy to talk about that movie.
Awesome.
With you.
We'll table that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, we'll say goodbye for now. But in the meantime, listeners, stick around. We will be right back with a little bit more show. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Listeners, we are back. Thanks for sticking around to the very
fun
end.
Episode.
Yes, indeed. We finally got my sister on the show, my good sister, coming on, talking about some fun stuff. But, this is, we're off to a good March so far.
Yeah. This movie was kind of a trip to revisit, because I think that I rented this movie once, watched it, probably didn't understand it then, and 20 years later, I still have trouble following it.
Oh, well,
but I'm glad that we got to discuss it, though.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. There was some interesting topics discussed today. But I think right about now in the episode, I think it's time for some Patreon shout outs.
Let's hear them.
Yes, indeed, I want to say a great big thank you and hello to all of our wonderful patrons, including Kelsey, Andrew, Stephen, Vanessa, Leah, SB, Brian, Sarah, Richard, Mark, Jeff, Amy, Erica, Anna, Mitchie, our friends at Hetty Drew Podcast, Andy, Kate, Pep, Roberto, Daisy, Kelly, Chrissy, Stephen, Laura, Thomas, Lori, Brenna, Jess, Lawrence, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Millie, Benny, Melanie, Susan, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Josh, Aaron, Nika-chan, Christine, and Rufino. You guys, thank you for being patrons.
We have a lot of fun stuff on our Patreon right now. If you go to moviesthatmadeusgay patreon.com/moviesthatmadeusgay, check out our Patreon stuff. At the $5 level, you will get the TV shows that keep us gay, where we watch a TV show every month and do a full episode on it. The February TV show was Veronica Mars.
Yes, indeed.
Which was a really fun one. And we
cool.
had a commentary at the $10 level.
Yeah, indeed. So at the $10 level, you get all the TV that keeps us gay and a bonus commentary episode each month. So check that out. And all of your donations go directly to keeping the show on the air, ad-free, and to keeping our equipment up and running. I need to do a run-through of our equipment to see what's going on with everything, make sure it's still in good shape 6 years later.
I think we might need a new soundboard.
And we might need a new soundboard, but
it happens.
Still going strong, but hey, 6 years in the biz.
Yeah.
Back and forth, and she's still running. Got to pour some gas into it.
Up and running.
Yes, indeed. So thank you so much, patrons, and check it out if you haven't already. We would love for you to follow our show on your podcast listening platforms and give us a rating.
Give us 5 stars.
Yeah, if you're over on Apple Podcasts or if you are on Spotify, go ahead and smash those 5 stars. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, write us a review. We haven't had a new review since Halloween, so it's time for a new one. but we'll read it on an episode, and that would be lots of fun. You can also follow our socials. We're most active on Instagram, where we post all of our new episodes and any exciting content. Any images that we're talking about during the show, we'll usually post over there so you guys can see what we're talking about. And we're at Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram. Also on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
You can follow us there too if you like. And we just uploaded all of our back catalog to YouTube.
A lot of people have been listening off YouTube lately.
Yeah. So you can head over to YouTube, search for Movies That Made Us Gay. You'll see our channel. And the episodes are pretty much audio
Years
only.
ago, we did a YouTube page, but this is a little more legit, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we kind of have everything there now.
It's all there. It's just the audio, so you just listen to it as a podcast. The main image is there, just kind of static. But, I know a lot of the young kids these days like their YouTubes. So we're available there. So go give us a follow on YouTube. And listen through YouTube Music if that's your main platform. So check us out.
You can go and follow our personal socials. I'm Scott Youngbeller on Instagram, and follow my letterbox.
Yes, indeed. I'm at Peter Lasagna on Instagram, and follow Scott's Letterboxd. Until next week, everybody. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.